Hi there, Paul Snyder, host of Hometown Roster. As you can see behind me, the stands are pretty empty here at the Collins Pearly Center. That's because football season's over. But for one man, it's time for that transition into another sport. I'm talking baseball. And that's why we're going to talk with Geoff Murray today, head football coach for BFA football and baseball. So I'm here with Geoff Murray, BFA football coach and baseball coach. Thank you for joining us on Hometown Roster.
Thanks for having me.
Yeah, so the big question is, as of right now, is the football season's over. What's it like for you now that, all that rush, that Friday night rush is over, even though, technically the football season's still going on? What's your emotions going through it right now? Well,
right now we're in kind of cleanup stage, putting equipment away and, going through evaluations and then figuring out our budgetary needs and then on to developing a scheme for next year.
Okay. What do the evaluations consist of?
Well, we individually on our coaching staff, we go through and we take a look at some of the positives and negatives of the season and look at ways to improve those and improve ourselves for that matter. And we set goals for the upcoming year, and then throughout the course of the next 10 months, we'll, through clinics and outside networking, we'll try and figure out ways to improve the areas that we think we need to get better at.
What were your overall expectations for the football season this year?
Well,
I know it's a little disheartening. You guys weren't able to get to the playoffs, but
well, certainly that was disappointing. The guys really, that was a goal, was to get into playoffs, and we've had some success there as far as making it to the playoffs historically.
Had a pretty long run, right?
Yeah, so it was the first year that we haven't made the playoffs, so that was to the guys a little disheartening, and they were really pretty upset about that, as they should have been, because that's really what they wanted to accomplish. Unfortunately, we ran into a Colchester team that wanted the same thing, and they played better than us that night, and they got to get into the playoffs. That's why you play the game.
Right, of course. So, some of the things that you had talked to me about, actually just in passing, you guys had some pretty crazy practices, I would say, involving the National Guard. Can you tell us a little bit about that? It's something definitely outside the box that you don't see a lot of coaches doing.
Well, one of the things that we talked about last year that we wanted to improve this year was some of our team building exercises, and we wanted to promote chemistry. Okay. And one of the ways we did that was with the National Guard. They actually approached me in last spring. They wanted to do something with the high school, and we couldn't get to it in the springs, but I thought it would be something that we could do in the fall, and it worked out great. They came up during the preseason, I think the second day of preseason, when the guys we were just starting to develop our team. They went through some exercises that both tested our physical fitness and also forced us to get to know each other and forced us to work together. All the things that you need to do when having a team. It was a great way to start the season. The players were very excited about it. They gave us a flag, and we carried that flag out with us to games.
That's great.
And it really got us going in a real positive direction.
Historically, you see when a coaching staff goes a little outside the box and does things like that, you typically do see a team that will come together and band together under a different adversity. Did you see that at all this year? Even though you guys, obviously, you didn't get to the playoffs, did you still see what you guys were able to do with the National Guard in some way or another translate on the football field?
We saw this every week, really. We had some core values that we wanted to live by through the season. We had great senior leadership, but we also had great junior leaders as well, and they all bonded and believed in our values, and win or lose, we had to live up to those values. And the outcomes or the results of the games really aren't as important as who we are and what we believe in, because we're really trying to build winning people. And football is just one way we can do that. It's part of the high school experience where it's outside of the classroom, and we can work on some of those skills in an arena that is physically and mentally demanding, that requires teamwork or collaboration. We're very confident that some of the things we did this year with our exercises with the National Guard and some other things that we did built in some real life lessons that our players will use down the road when it becomes more important. You don't really, we talk about this with the guys all the time, 10 years from now, 15 years from now, they're not going to remember the scores, they're going to remember the people that they looked across at in the huddles, in the locker room, the relationships that they built. That's what they're going to remember.
I could definitely speak to that. Playing high school football 10 years ago, I do remember the teammates, I do remember my friends, and I remember, I still talk to a good majority of them as well. Do I remember what the scores of the games were? Actually, I don't, and that goes to show exactly what you're saying. So we talked a little bit about outside the classroom and how those things are going to be. You're a social studies teacher at BFA.
Yes.
What's it like being a coach and a teacher, and being able to see your players as students? You get both sides of the ball, really. You see the student athlete.
Teaching, in many ways, is just simply coaching, and coaching is teaching. And the first thing that probably needs to happen in any classroom, whether it's football or social studies, is you got to build relationships. You got to get to know the people you're working with, know what they're all about. And by being in the school, I can see the other side of the players. I have some of them in class, get to know them really well, and that's really what it's about, because my job is to help them and become better people, and hopefully winning people down the road. And by seeing them academically and athletically, that just gives me a better opportunity to build a positive relationship with the players.
Is there a disadvantage to them seeing you as both, as a teacher and a coach?
I don't believe so. That's why I got into it. It's because of the teachers and coaches that I had, and the impression that they left on me.
Now, this is far from the end of your season. For some coaches, they get, if they're a fall coach, they've got their season. Now it's, if they're also a teacher, they've got the rest of the school year to worry about academics. Not the case for you, though. You've got another season to worry about coming up in the spring for baseball. What's that transition like?
Well, it's a long winter.
Right.
So
especially in Vermont.
Yeah,
sure.
Especially in Vermont. So, baseball is a kind of a different animal in the state of Vermont, because we have such a short season. We spend probably, depending on perhaps El Nino this year, 4, sometimes 5 weeks inside the rink before we get outside. Generally, teams in southern Vermont have a little bit of an advantage. So once we get outside, essentially we start playing games. And once you start playing games, you got 5 weeks, and then we're done.
Right, exactly. Yeah, that season's so short in Vermont.
It's a very short season, much different than football. In the winter, we have a lot of multi-sport athletes. It's one thing that I really like about BFA, is that we have a lot of players playing 2 and 3 sports. So it's nice to see them be successful in other areas and not get burned out in one sport.
Right, sure.
And then come to sign-ups in the spring, I'll see
they're still in that physical shape as well.
Yeah, I see their faces once again.
Right.
And we got a lot of guys that play from the football team, baseball and lacrosse and track. So it's very it's a lot of fun to see them be successful in all areas, including the classroom. First of all, that's the most important thing.
Yeah. Student, then athlete.
Yes.
Sure. So let's talk about some of your students that you have on your football team that will eventually be, on that roster for baseball. I know that Mark Connor was your starting quarterback this year. He did very well last year as he was a junior last year for pitching, right? What do you expect to see from him transitioning forward to the baseball season? From taking on that role as a starting quarterback for the first time.
I think he gained a lot more leadership qualities this year. When you're put in that position, the quarterback has to take responsibility for the offense and accountability, and he did that. He led our offense very well. He's not one to make a lot of excuses, and he's really a competitor. He does not want to lose any drill, any game, and that's what makes him special.
We've talked about what's future. Can we talk a little past? What's your background when it comes to athletics? How long have you been a BFA football coach or baseball coach, and what was before that?
Well, I actually went to school at BFA, and I played football, hockey, and baseball. And I had coaches and teachers like Red Genrin, Perry Bove, Larry Trombley, Burt Berthume. You might not want me to mention that, but Jim Bashaw, Dan Marlowe, all of these great coaches. I had great teachers too. Joe Davison. I grew up in a family of teachers. My mom was a teacher for 35 years. My father was a teacher and an assistant principal. My neighbors. I grew up right here in St. Albans City. The Hayneses, Birdman, the Kijijis, the Davisons. Some of my best friends, a guy I teach with, Geoff Moulton. His parents, Mr. Moulton, was a guidance counselor and teacher. His mom was a teacher. The Boswicks, John and Claudette Boswick, they taught at school. Bob Ashton, Tom McDonald, all of these people had a tremendous influence on me. That's why I got into teaching and eventually coaching, to hopefully have an impact on our youth today.
Gotcha. Okay. Well, Geoff, I really appreciate you just taking some time to talk with us and to let people at home know a little bit more about you, because that's the point of the show. Is sure we see you on the sidelines, but we're more focused. No offense to you, but we're more focused on the guy with the ball and the players on the field. That's what it should be about. Yep. I just want to give everyone kind of a glimpse into your background and to learn a little more about you. So I really appreciate you coming out here and meeting with me. And good luck staying warm this winter and in the upcoming baseball season.
Thank you very much. Appreciate it.